Well, we're focused back on the main storyline. We are reminded how flawed of a show Fear the Walking Dead really is, and how, even though they are getting better, many problems still remain. Hey guys, this is Kevin on for Fear the Walking Dead, Season 2, Episode 9, Los Muertos, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode because of last week's episode. You guys know, I really thought last week's episode was genuinely a really good premiere. I thought it was a very good comeback for the show, in the fact that it focused on Nick, and they definitely did some good stuff, and they tried to develop his character a little bit. They did almost a completely dialogue-free episode, and I just thought it was really interesting the way they did that. And then introducing a character like Luciana, I was wondering what she was going to be like, and I definitely was looking forward to seeing how this episode was going to be. Now, right off the bat, was this episode as good as last week's? No, and I'll tell you why. Because unlike last week's episode, which was slow for a reason, this episode was just slow to be slow. In fact, the main storyline in this episode, I honestly couldn't really, could not stay invested in because I thought it was too boring, I thought it was too slow. It's mainly because of the subplot that this episode doesn't suck, and the ending as well. I thought the ending of this episode was good, and there are some good small character moments in this episode, but there's a difference between small character moments and then just stuff that's slow to be slow, and there is that stuff in this episode. In fact, there are some scenes here that I felt were just slow, just because they simply wanted them to be, and let's just get in this episode because I do want to talk about it. Now, we do start off with Nick. We do get a lot of stuff with Nick in this episode, which I gotta say that Nick in this, half of the season, his storyline is very quickly becoming my favorite. I really do like what we're being introduced to here. He's walking up in bed near this woman who's coughing up blood. He slept in the infirmary, and he realizes that the woman is dying. And see, there's really not much he can do. He knows that she's probably going to turn into a walker soon, and obviously, he kind of accepts them, and Nick walks outside the community we saw thriving at the end of Grotesque to see that no one is actually there. It's actually a ghost town, which is interesting that we saw. So why were all of those people, who were all those people in the community that he pictured? He's still limping a bit, but it's better than it was before, and a couple of men stand guard in towers nearby, but Nick doesn't find anyone on the ground floor. He ventures outside until he finds a crying little girl. She's sad about her father. Nick looks out to see a man approaching Luciana, and we don't know who this man is or what's going on with him, really. Now, this I was really confused by, because it seemed like there were all these people in the town, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like a ghost town. I found that very strange, but the doctor asks the man if he is ready. He nods, indicating a positive response. He hands over a knife, gets into a school bus, which connects to a yard full of walkers on the other side, and he walks toward them as a crowd looks on. They're chanting as he feeds himself to the undead, and what a way to start off. I mean, right off the bat, I will definitely say that was a very good beginning. I did like the way this episode started off. I thought it was really crazy the way they did that, and really, I think set us up very well for what this, part of the storyline is going to be like. I mean, this is a much different kind of town than we're used to seeing, and I thought it was interesting the way that we saw that here. So, we get back with Madison, Alicia, Strand, and Ofelia in this episode. Now, I will say, it was cool to see these characters again, because it's been a while since we saw them. I just didn't really feel they serviced them well here. I don't really know if they knew what they wanted to do with them in this episode. I mean, we see them, they're riding in the back of a pickup truck with Strand driving, Ophelia's in the passenger seats, and there's literally no talk of Ofelia grieving over Daniel, which I was actually really upset about. I was hoping we get some scenes of it, but we didn't, and they're searching for Nick and Travis because they don't know where they've gone, and Chris as well. And Alicia and Madison urge her to give up and head back to the Abigail estate, and that might just be the best thing to do. That maybe they should just give up and go back to, where they were. And Nick then walks around the community, the people are back, and the doctor takes care of some folks and reveals in Spanish that he is actually a pharmacist. And Nick seems to have caught what he said before he goes up to talk to Luciana, and like I said, I think this part was definitely very interesting, and just seeing Nick realize what this community is like, realizing, what they really do and what their purpose is, I thought was very interesting to see. It's not really something we've seen on The Walking Dead, and like I said, something I think the show is doing very well is they're utilizing different kinds of locations. What we see in this episode, they could never do on The Walking Dead today. It wouldn't make any sense for them to do, but because this is a prequel, and because this is supposed to be a world where they don't really fully understand the apocalypse, I think it worked really well what they did here. I definitely really did like what they did with that. I thought overall, like I said, that storyline is really interesting. It's just everything else with Strand, because we see Strand, the group, they arrive at this cliff, they're searching for the yacht, but it's gone, and they don't know where the Abigail went. Obviously, they were on the boat, and they're thinking they should just get back on it, but Alicia tells Madison that Nick is gone. It's the two of them now, whether she likes it or not, which I thought was a good scene. I like that Alicia's kind of giving her a reality check and telling her, look, you want our family together? Well, look, our family's kind of fractured right now, and we gotta kind of be into separate factions, and that's kind of, I think what they need. I mean, they need some time alone, and that's something they did well here. But I can very much tell this is probably going to be the least interesting of the three. I think definitely we see that here. They leave a message in the sand. Well, that is until we get to Travis and Chris next week. I don't really think that's going to be much more interesting. But they leave a message in the sand. Abigail lost head north, so they're thinking, okay, maybe they need to go north. Maybe that's where the Abigail is. And they ride by a pier. They find this hotel, deciding to go inside for safety. And like I said, it took them so long to get to this hotel. This part was just dragging out this point. I honestly was bored. We're only I'd say 4 minutes in. I was so bored at this point. I don't know what they were thinking. I was so bored here, and I don't know why they took so long to get into the damn hotel. I mean, it was just tedious. It really was. It was tedious. It was dumb. It seemed like it was only there just because they wanted to keep padding out the episode, and I thought it was very boring the way they did that, and that's mainly my main complaint with this episode. So Nick then fills these pails of water, then he washes bandages before Luciana tells him to follow her. And like I said, I think the best stuff in this episode was between Nick and Luciana. We'll get into that in a second, though, because Strand's group then approaches the hotel. They're not knowing that walkers are watching through windows across the street, which that part I thought was done. I did like the build-up with the walkers, and the doors were boarded up, prompting the group to be cautious inside, and Strand rings the bell on the desk repetitively, and nothing happens, and he rules that service is subpar, and this was just dumb. I mean, why would you go in obviously they know the walkers aren't there, but the doors were obviously boarded up for a reason. Why would you go into this hotel when the doors are boarded up? I mean, that was dumb, honestly. It was dumb. I get that they wanted to find the Abigail, but out of all places to go, this is where you go. I just thought it was a really dumb decision that they do that. I mean, really, just think about this. It's really dumb that they decided to do that, but anyway, I'm not going to harp on it for too long. Luciana and Nick wander into the yard full of undead. Luciana pins one to a wall with knives, and she tells Nick to stay, and this to me was my favorite scene in the episode. I really did love this scene, because she pins one to a wall with knives, and she tells Nick to stay absolutely quiet at all times before they use the walker's blood to cover themselves and blend in, because again, you put the blood on yourself, they think you're dead, and she tells Nick that she has chosen him to come along, because no one will really miss him. He's not from the town, he's someone that just got there, he's not really related to anyone, he's kind of on his own right now, and he asks who would miss her, and she says that he is already missing, and I think it's interesting the way these two are bonding. You can tell they're in a very unique situation where they obviously don't really have anyone that they're looking for. They're kind of both outsiders, and I think it's interesting to see the journey they're going on. I think Luciana already is becoming a very interesting character. I really am liking what they're doing with her, I have to say. I like what they're doing here, and I like they're really developing her character and not just, making her a plot device. I like that they actually did develop her in this episode. I think they did a pretty good job with it. I really am liking what we're getting of her. So Ofelia and the others then find an abandoned wedding, and she tells them that she was almost married once. His name was William. This was the scene where I'm like, why are you telling me this? I don't care. She said that he was a good man, according to her, but Strand says that he couldn't have been that good if it was almost, and she reveals she had to choose between him and her parents. Strand tells her that the past will only make her sick. They continue their search through the hotel. Now, I do get, obviously, that they're all harping on the past, but here's Ofelia, someone that we know is so close to her family. She obviously cares about Daniel. Why at no point throughout this entire episode is she not concerned about Daniel? There's no point here. There's no point where she's with anyone and she's saying, oh, I hope that Daniel's okay. There's no point about it, and that's really what made me upset. I really wanted her, you know, we know how close she was with Daniel. We know that she knew Daniel was going through this senile thing. Why isn't she concerned about her father? I mean, it just felt so weird that they were doing this, and it felt like they wanted to just abandon it. No one's talked about Daniel. No one said anything. It's like they want to pretend he didn't exist, and it really sucks because he was one of the best actors on this show. I think he definitely had some of the best stuff here, and if they actually killed off his character and they don't give any sort of resolution to him, I'm going to be severely pissed if they did that, because it doesn't service the character at all. I don't really know what they were thinking if they did that, and if they actually did do that to his character, like I said, I'm going to be really pissed if they actually did kill off his character and we don't hear anything about it, which I think we're going to hear something about it, but I feel like it's going to be a Glenn situation where they're going to make you think he's dead, and he's not actually dead, but I don't really know. We'll have to see what happens there. It's really dumb that they're not just bringing him up. I mean, you develop this relationship between Ofelia and Daniel, then you never talk about him. It just felt weird. Ruben Blades is such a good actor, and he deserves a lot more than what they're giving him. So then we see Nick and Lucia, they're continuing their walk, and she has biblical beliefs, and Nick doesn't necessarily agree with her, but the thing is, he's kind of outnumbered in this town. Even what, you know, his beliefs aren't really, you know, of use to anyone. They don't really care what he thinks. He's kind of just supposed to go along with their ways, and she tells Nick that the pharmacist was bitten and didn't turn, claiming to have seen it with her own two eyes, which is interesting that we saw. I don't really think we've seen that before. How was he bitten and he didn't turn? That doesn't really make any sense, but apparently there is a way where you don't necessarily turn into a walker, which I thought was interesting that we saw that, and the way that she's very experienced about this and really knows what she's talking about, that's something I thought was interesting. So Alicia's ready to rule the hotel dead, and her relationship with Madison, we can tell, is very tense. Madison searches the bar for resources, and Strand wants to make her a drink and does, despite her reluctance, and I did like the bonding between these two here. I thought it was well done. There just wasn't really enough of it. I really didn't think they did enough with them here, and there really wasn't anything too substantial, and anytime they really tried to develop something big here, they kind of just abandoned it. And Nick and Lucia then approach some dealers. She warns them about how intense they are, and saying that they will hang you if he looks at them wrong. And as they get close, a man stands up, loads his gun. Lucia drops all of her weapons on the ground, and she tells him that they need water. He asks what she has for him, and she hands over a bag of medicine, prompting him to allow her inside the store. She grabs a water bottle and shopping cart before going inside, and obviously they need the proper resources and things like that, which I thought was interesting that we saw. I definitely, like I said, was really liking where this was going. But Strand and Madison then share some martinis. He explains the perfect way to make one. He catches that she's from Alabama. This is the kind of scene that I just felt was really just dead weight. I mean, there was no reason for them to be talking about this. Again, talk about something that actually is relevant to a plot. There is a rule when you have episodes that are just slow. Talk about something of relevance. Don't just talk about things that are random. Like, why did we have Ofelia talking about her dead husband? I mean, her husband. It didn't really make sense. Why do we have Madison talking about she's from Alabama? Why aren't you talking about Chris and Travis? Why aren't you talking about these things that actually matter? And she tells him that is true, but all of his stories are bullshit and demands he bring her some tequila. Now, it does remind us that she doesn't fully trust Strand, which I don't understand. After all this time, she still doesn't trust him. I don't understand that. I really don't. I mean, she saw what he wanted to do in the Abigail. She saw what he did for them, and I have no idea why she still doesn't trust him. I mean, it doesn't really make sense at all. It just seems like it's there to create drama, but Alicia and Ofelia explored the upper floors. They checked some rooms and like, okay, now's the time for these two to bond. Now's the time where we're actually going to see her maybe talk about her father a little bit. And Alicia grabs a key card. She tries to open a room, but a walker starts banging on the door. She realizes that somebody has marked the infected room, and they find that it's not infected, and they start looking inside for supplies, but also find someone who literally hanged themselves in the shower, which that was tough to watch. But Ophelia's taken aback when she sees, but Alicia Alicia just wants to leave. And again, why aren't they talking about what's going on with Daniel? It was weird the way that was done. Definitely, I thought that was weird the way they did that. But basically, Luciana shops as Nick follows her. They're looking for water, gauze, vitamins, and anything else they can use in the infirmary. And Nick wants to take some candy, but she insists they only take what they need. And, obviously they need this stuff. And at the end of the aisle, Nick sees a camp of ill folks. One man starts looking at Nick with an odd interest. They fill the cart with water, and we don't really know what this man wants, but he looks at Nick in this weird way, and we don't really know what he wants from him, but I thought that was interesting. So Ofelia and Alicia then continue their search, and Alicia starts to fill a bag from the fridge as Ofelia discovers there is still hot water, and Alicia asks why the man in the previous room gave up, and Ofelia says he may have been tired of just surviving, reveals that she believes that they are not going to make it. Now this was interesting. Now this is when I'm like, alright, now I'm liking where we're going here, because she has this belief that they're dead, that there's no way they're getting out of this, and she says that her father was always the one step behind hope, and she's starting to get on the same track. We've always known that Daniel, he's the one that really gives everyone this reality check that says, whoa, you really need to think about this realistically. Daniel's someone that feels they're doomed, and Alicia insists that Daniel was wrong. Alicia tells Ofelia that they're family now, but Ofelia is pessimistic, and again, she's talking about him like he's dead, and I just want to see her grieve. I want to see her get upset about her father, and that little mention of Daniel, I'm like, why? Why is she not grieving over him? It just didn't make any sense to me. It's so weird. I didn't understand why they did that. I mean, The Walking Dead at least had some stuff where they were grieving. Now, yes, I get that obviously they don't have much time, but there's literally no one in this hotel. I mean, you're having a slow episode, and people are talking about drinks and things like that, and things are so casual. Why not talk about your father? It just didn't make any sense why they did that. They did it with Liza. Why can't they do it with Daniel? It didn't make sense at all. So, and Daniel was so much more important than Liza. Like, Liza was a good character, don't get me wrong, but Daniel was one of the best characters the show has had, and the fact that they just didn't talk about him all made no sense to me. I don't know why they did that, but that definitely, like I said, was very strange. So, Luciana and Nick then leave the store. The man who was eyeing Nick earlier sends another to attack him. They find the candy in his pants, and he stole it, and the man is going to cut off Nick's hand. Now, this scene was crazy. Nick explains that the oxy he supplied for the man's sister will run out if he hurts Nick. Nick tells him that 1 week without the medication, his sister will be in so much pain that he'll wish she would turn so he could kill her, and now they want another cart of water if he wants more oxy, and Luciana's been translating. The man reluctantly allows it, and I like the way this scene was done, where you didn't really know if the man, trusted Nick, but obviously, he thought that Nick stole the candy, and I like that Nick was trying to give him a reason why. So Nick and Luciana, they continue with their 2 carts of water. She's displeased with his actions because it puts them in danger, and, I mean, that's understandable, but the thing is, Nick is not really used to this kind of culture before. He's not really used to having to do all this stuff, but here's the thing. Nick was just alone on his own. How does he not know how to survive? I mean, it seemed like last week that's what Nick was willing to do, It seemed like he was kind of at the end of his life, and again, it still seems like they don't have a firm grasp on Nick exactly. It seems like they're still kind of trying to figure out what to do with him. But at the same time, Nick is also kind of a little fish in a big city right now, so you can kind of understand why he is this way. But again, much better than whatever the hell was going on with the main plot. I just thought this was just a lot more interesting. I like what we got here, and I wish the rest of the episode was as interesting as this. Then they reminisce on pre-apocalyptic memories, and they debate what it would have been like to cross paths, and he said that he would have talked about coming up in the world or something to impress her. Now, I thought this scene was interesting, kind of like if they knew each other in a past life, and he says that he would have hit on her, but didn't we go through a whole half of the season exploring the fact that Strand is gay and he doesn't want anyone to know he's gay? So I found that a bit strange. I mean, I understand that Madison might not know he's gay, but I mean, I don't know if he's bi or if he generally does like her. I don't really know what they're going with that, but anyway, that's beside the point. He says that she's surprised, pours them another shot of tequila. His mood changes when he realizes that everything they would have talked about is gone, and that's the past, and Madison reveals her conclusion that Alicia's right, that she's never going to see Nick again, and Strand assures her that he is alive, he's bulletproof, and that he is out there somewhere, and I did like that she's kind of starting to lose hope, maybe thinking that he's gone. And Madison says that Nick was born lost. She compares his lifestyle to that of his father's, and Strand asks how Steven passed, and she tells him that he crossed the divider into oncoming traffic. She told the kids he fell asleep, but she doesn't believe that. She keeps trying to save them, and that's the thing I think this episode actually might have benefited from. Maybe if we got some flashbacks into that past, maybe I would have liked this episode more, because that's something that worked really well in last week's episode, is seeing those flashbacks. Did they really contribute much to the main storyline? No, but I feel like here, it would have definitely, and I feel like that really would have serviced us better than what we got here, especially in an episode where not a ton was going on. So Strand tells her that these things can only live with them, they can't choose. She disagrees, saying they can only choose, but her choice, despite the past, was the wrong one. And she's drunk, she pours another drink. She says to motherhood, she suddenly throws her glass at the wall, flips another, pours another shot. This time to false hope, she shatters that glass too. Strand heads to the piano, he plays some dark, deep keys. Nearby walkers are hearing the noise. Now, again, I thought this was dumb on their part because the house was abandoned, the hotel was abandoned to begin with. I don't really know why they're here, but obviously, you know, you can tell that shit's about to go down. Upstairs, Alicia gets out of the shower. She looks for Ofelia, and she finds the door to the balcony open, and she obviously fears the worst. She's thinking, you know, she doesn't really know what could happen here, and she's thinking that maybe Ofelia, holy shit, might have committed suicide. Now, if they actually killed off Ofelia, I would have been severely pissed, because out of all the characters, Ofelia is the one that we know literally nothing about. I mean, we know some stuff about her, but not really a ton. A body falls from above her floor. Walkers are falling from the balconies, hanging to the bars. Piano sound we see, which Alicia tries to call out to them before rushing down the hallway. She's searching for Ofelia. She tries the stairwell, but it's full of walkers, and where'd Ofelia go? I have no idea. I have no idea where Ofelia went. I don't know why they did this. It just felt like this was Ramley to put Alicia in this chaotic situation, and I don't know. Again, I just thought this was dumb. So, back in Tijuana, Nick and Luciana then push their cars through the community. Luciana tells Nick that Alejandro will find him, and he sees the little girl whose father died earlier. He gives her the candy that he stole, which I think was smart, obviously, because what he did was wrong, and he just feels like she would like the candy. So, Luciana sees it, calls Nick to her. Nick walks into Alejandro's house, and I have to say that Alejandro is someone who I just don't trust. Something is really off about this guy, and I can't really explain it, but I really don't trust him. He tells Nick that he heard about what he did, almost starting a war. Nick defends the decision, saying not everything has to be about death, because it seems like this is kind of a death cult, and the man tells him that he's exactly wrong, and he takes Nick into another room, reveals they're running low on supplies. The man assures him that this is all only a test, claiming that the dead are heading to the final resting place, and the faithful will outlast death. He feels that the dead are here to prove that humans will reign victorious, and that we're only here to defeat the walkers, and that it actually is a good situation, which is bullshit. It really is. And Nick questions how he's so sure, sees an intense scar, possibly a bite on Alejandro's shoulder. He tells Nick that if he ever puts his people in danger again, he will feed him to the wall, and again, I'm lost. I have no idea what they're trying to say here with this whole idea of, oh, you know, if you get bitten, you know, because we always had this mentality in The Walking Dead that if you're bit, you turn into a walker. How is he bit and he's not a walker? I'm under the assumption that he's not actually bit. I think that he's fooling everyone. I think he's doing this because he wants everyone to believe in what he's saying, and I think he's kind of brainwashed his entire community. That's how I feel, at least. I think he's brainwashed, you know, his community, and we'll have to see what's going on there. I think that's going to be interesting. So, Strand and Madison then continue drinking and playing the piano. Walkers then fall around them. They're surrounded. Walkers bust in the bar. Can't say that they didn't have this coming, because they totally did. Alejandro then rallies people of his community. He assures them that they're all doing the right thing. Madison and Strand then fight off walkers, and suddenly the episode's very intense, which really does not make up for how slow it is, but Alejandro's speech continues, telling them the migration of their souls has begun. Madison and Strand are cornered behind the bar. Alejandro then tells them that they know death and it won't take them. It's their world. They're the children of the resurrection. Nick joins in on their chant, I think kind of realizing that he's kind of outnumbered, and he kind of just has to go along with it, even though he doesn't really agree with it. He kind of just has to, like I said, go along with it. So Alicia's trapped in the hotel room. Madison and Strand are trapped, completely surrounded the bar. The chant stops, and Alejandro says they will never leave, and that is how the episode ends. But let's get into this episode overall, because I really do have a lot to say, especially for my predictions for next week. Here's my problem with this episode, is that while I think it was a good idea to maybe, like I said, split the group into factions, because I think it gets us to develop these characters more, they're not really servicing them well, at least the main plot. I think the stuff with Nick is definitely getting interesting, but the stuff with Madison, Strand, Alicia, and Ofelia, they're not really servicing them well at all. I mean, they didn't really talk about things they should be talking about. What about Ofelia and Daniel? Why aren't we hearing about them? Why hasn't Alicia ever talked about her boyfriend? I mean, we heard her talk about him in the first half of the season, but why isn't she bonding with Ofelia over that? There should have been some sort of bonding there. We could have had some scenes or of stuff we've actually seen and stuff we care about, maybe get us to actually like these characters more. But no, we spent an entire episode talking about stuff that we've never seen. Stuff about Ofelia and this husband that she had, well, possible fiance that she had, Madison talking about her husband. I mean, all this stuff that just doesn't really matter in this situation. I don't really know why they were doing this. But anyway, the end of this episode I thought was just complete chaos, and I don't know why they went from such a low-key episode to so crazy so fast. I mean, there's a big difference between a slow episode, a slow-moving episode, and then something that's just painfully boring. And I'm not gonna lie, this episode was kind of boring. I'm not gonna lie, I almost fell asleep. I thought this episode was quite boring at points, and I really was not into what was going on. It's mainly because I just feel they don't have the firmest grasp on the main story, which sucks because it's the main storyline of this season. It really sucks that they don't know what they're doing there. So I don't really know what's happening with that. Where is Ofelia gone? I don't know. Are we ever going to find out what happened to Daniel? I really hope we do, because like I said, I really feel that, the actor that plays him, he deserves a lot better than this. He's a very talented actor. I really want to see him, I really just want to see them tell us what happened to him, because I don't want this whole thing where we never find out what happened to him. It's very strange. It's really weird that no one seems to be grieving over him. It's very strange that no one seems to be worried about him. I mean, it's really weird. I get that obviously they're looking for Travis and Nick, but Daniel could have died in that fire. I don't think they realize that, and I don't really know if they know where he went, especially Ofelia, you think would care about her father, but she just doesn't really seem to care, and that just felt very strange to me. Strand and Madison, I don't really know what they're trying to do here. I thought Strand was gay. Apparently he's not. I don't know if he's trying to cover up if he's gay. I don't know. It's kind of strange, but let's talk about this whole Nick and Lucia stuff, because that's really the interesting stuff in this episode. That, like I said, made up for all the other stuff going on in this episode. If this episode would have just been Strand, Madison, Ofelia, and Alicia, this might have been the worst episode the show has given us, because from that standpoint, this is some of the most painfully slow stuff we have had on this show yet. I mean, that is the exact example of what I don't want in the show. But Nick's storyline, I think, is really starting to get very interesting. I really do like where it's going. And this Alejandro guy, something about him I just really don't trust. I kind of feel like he faked the bite. I feel like he wants them to think that maybe they're invincible and that maybe they'll be able to fight off the walkers, but I think he knows deep down that what he's saying is a little crazy, and that I think he just wants to say that to protect himself and the community and not have it be complete chaos, because especially in this situation, I think it makes sense in that way, and I think Nick knows as well what he's saying is wrong, but he can't really do anything because, again, he's an outsider. He kind of just has to go along with it, and Luciana is someone that I feel might actually be a little bit brainwashed. I think as smart as Luciana seems, I think she's been a bit brainwashed. I think she kind of has this mentality that maybe fighting off the walkers is the right thing to do, but obviously we know what's going to happen, and I don't really know what they're trying to get at here. I don't think they're trying to say that if you survive a bite, you're not going to die. I don't think that's what they're trying to say. I don't think, I don't think they completely just, and something that we've had such a huge mentality on, and we've always known in this show. I don't know why they would do that, but I don't think that's what they're doing, so I'm not going to fault them on that. I think everything in Nick's storyline is definitely getting a little more interesting. But again, Nick was a bit out of character here from last episode. This episode he seemed like he didn't really know what he was doing, but I'm not going to fault him on that, because again, like I said, he's a little fish in a big city, still kind of getting used to the community. I like that we saw that. But what about the walkers? I think someone's dying next week. I really do, and I really hope it's not Ofelia, but I feel like it's going to be. And why is that? Because they literally just might have killed her off. I mean, the fact that Alicia can't find her, the fact she's talking about death, I mean, when we start seeing more of a character, that's usually when they die, and I really kind of feel like Ofelia might die. They already talked about there's going to be a major death, and if they actually kill Ofelia, I'm going to be genuinely pissed. I really am, but I have to say, when we get to Chris and Travis next week, I really hope it's a lot more interesting than what's going on in this main storyline, because right now, this main storyline just didn't really do it for me here. I thought it was painfully slow. I thought it was painfully boring. It's the exact opposite of what I need the show to do. But anyways, guys, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. I really want to like this show, I do, but I just feel they aren't really using these characters to their full advantage, and as much as Nick's storyline is interesting, it's just not enough, I have to say. I want an episode where everything is interesting, and it doesn't seem like they've been giving me that. I mean, they've given me a couple episodes of that this season, but so far this season only is like one or two storylines interesting. Not everything is interesting. Only a few things are interesting, and I just feel that I want this to get more interesting. I hope because of the walkers, things are going to get more interesting next week, but we'll have to see what happens with that. But anyways, guys, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. What do you think of the second half of the season so far? I do feel it's a slight improvement over the first half. I definitely will say that, but I will see you guys but that's in my review. Hope you guys will enjoy it. See you guys in my next video, which, guys, the review you all have been waiting for is finally here. I know all summer you guys have been telling me to review The Night Of, and guys, I am binging it. I will be hopefully be finishing it tomorrow, and, well, I'm going to finish it tomorrow, tonight, hopefully. I get very close to finishing it. You guys don't care about this, but I will be reviewing The Night Of in my next review, which I know you guys are definitely looking forward to, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.